Whoa! Welcome to the What's Our Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves cinematic judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-host, Mattson
I'll set. Better read than dead.
and Alec Burgess.
Oh, let's get it.
We appreciate you tuning in. Go ahead and hit that follow, subscribe, like, bell notification button. Hit all those buttons. Tell a friend about us. Tell a peeping Tom about us. Help us grow the podcast. We appreciate it.
Please don't tell Peeping Tom.
Come on, dude. You know they would appreciate this podcast. Get the fuck out of here.
I do.
Yeah, so let's talk about our sponsor first, guys. Our sponsor, still Manscaped. We appreciate them. For real, if you are looking for a New Year's resolution, keeping your balls clean is the way to go. So the resolution shouldn't be the only things that are well kept. We want to make sure your balls are too. 2024 is time for new heights, new opportunities, and a new look for your Times Square balls. I love that. Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. This guy right here is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and turn the page on confidence this year. Whether you're looking to maintain a trim or go for the clean-shaven look, this trimmer has you covered. Trusted by over 10 million men worldwide, including the three of us now, right? I trust them so much, I bought a beard trimmer. I just haven't used it yet because it's fucking cold outside. Now's the time to get your grip on grooming with our exclusive offer. You can go to manscaped.com and use code THEVERDICT, all one word. If you're watching us, you can see it on our banner scrolling there at the bottom. Get 20% off, free shipping. Have a happy new year, or is it happy new balls? Either way works great. So what were you gonna say, man?
JJ, a clarification: do all people have to shave outside, or is this a JJ mannerism? Because I don't.
It's cold on his face when his face is clean shaven, dipshit.
He's not shaving. He's not shaving all of his beard off. He's just trimming.
Yeah, but it's really long right now, so it keeps my face really warm. That's what I mean. It's cold outside because it's.
That's what you went to.
I thought he has such a mess. He's got to do it outside. I don't know.
If you watched last week's episode, you know Mattson had to sleep outside, so that's probably why he's thinking about it. He could have used a beard like this. I do need to do it though, because like this shit's getting in the way when I eat. It's driving me nuts. So.
It's a little scratchy. I use my Manscaped lawnmower with the little flashlight to make sure I could see outside. So it's very helpful.
It's true.
You can see in some dark crevices.
That's right. Especially when you're fat like me. That's why we keep them around. So yeah, hey, look, we're continuing our month of AFI top 100 choices. We picked a few, and then our Patreon Charles or Guy Pearce's South Pole voted on them for us. And we're continuing this week, and with Rear Window, another Alfred Hitchcock classic. Some say it's his best movie. It was released September 1st, 1954. It was written by John Michael Hayes and Cornell Woolrich. It was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. Stars James Stewart. It's still weird calling him that.
Jimmy Stewart.
It's Jimmy Stewart, but he's listed. It's James. Anyway, Jimmy Stewart, Grace Kelly, Wendell Corey, Thelma Ritter, Raymond Burr, Judith Evelyn, Ross Bagdasarian, because that's the coolest name ever, and Georgine Darcy. It is
Grace Kelly.
Yeah, Grace Kelly. A photographer in a wheelchair spies on his neighbors from his Greenwich Village courtyard apartment window. God, that's a mouthful. And becomes convinced one of them has committed murder despite the skepticism of his fashion model girlfriend. I don't think that's accurate. She gets on board pretty quick. I think it's more his knuckleheaded detective reluctant friend than his girlfriend, because Grace gets on board. She's like, no, Jimmy's the man. Yeah, so another great choice here. Another Alfred. Yeah, check out the banner. I like it. Another Alfred Hitchcock classic. I like this one better than Psycho, what we did last week. Like, I thoroughly enjoy this film. And here's the crazy part. So I like this film. I didn't see this film until I was like 20, I want to say 28, 29 years old. This one took me a while. Part of that is because when I was right before I graduated high school, they did a remake of it with Superman, Christopher Reeve, and it was okay. The problem is as much as I love Christopher Reeve, he is no Jimmy Stewart. And as much as I love, I can't remember who the woman that played his girlfriend, she is definitely not Grace Kelly. But I love this film. Like, I think it's really good. I think part of what makes it so good is the dialogue. And then again, Hitchcock's timing. You talked about it during Alec, during Psycho, is his timing is outrageous. And the fact that we have to, like, the way he pans from window to window visually in this film is so good to me. Because it's just basic movement of a camera. Like, it's not even like fancy, you know, hanging cameras and shit. It was just moving it from one to the next. And we get to see, you don't hear the dialogue of what's going on in the other apartments most of the time. It's just so interesting. And I'm rooting for this fucking peeping Tom in this apartment. And I love this film. I really enjoy it. So great pick. I can't wait to continue talking about it for the next little bit.
This was the first Alfred Hitchcock movie I ever saw. And so this one has a special place in my heart. I tell you though, what was I going to say? Forget. I lost my train of thought for a second. But this should be Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window, directed by Alfred Hitchcock and acted by Alfred Hitchcock. Because apparently he was giving directions by radio to everybody what to do.
Really?
The entire movie. They had little earpieces in, and he was in their head going, do this, do that, now move here, for the entire production. We talked a little bit last week how Alfred Hitchcock kind of a dick.
Yeah.
Like, dude, living with that guy in my head.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah. That would be
like, I couldn't do it. But yeah, all these apartments were also like fully functional for the most part. So I think Mrs. Lonely Heart actually had to live in her apartment for a month while they filmed.
He would do that. He's such an asshole.
That's freaking hilarious. Well, let's get into the trivia then. Mattson's trivia time. Where did Hitchcock make his one cameo appearance? Which apartment?
The piano guy. He's dusting the clock.
Yeah.
Alec knows it. Great job there. Okay. That was an easy and quick one then. How many nominations for Academy Awards did this movie receive?
Ooh. I think it was 4.
I think 4 too.
It was 4.
Wow.
The most notable were Best Director for Hitchcock, so pat on the back there, and then Best Screenplay for John Michael Hayes. Let's see. This is just a fun fact. So Rear Window is considered one of Hitchcock's best and one of his greatest films ever made. It was added to the United States National Film Registry and the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant in 1997. So again, Congrats to you, Hitchcock. How much movie did this make at the box office? Or how much money? Sorry.
I'm pretty sure it was pretty bad, if I remember right. Like, I don't think it was a huge success.
So I'll give you context. Give me a number between 0 to 50 million.
Wow, that much in the 50s? I'm going to say 4 million.
13.
36.
Wow.
So it killed. I mean,
that killed.
It freaking killed. Yeah. So that's why, that what's confusing to me, we did Psycho last week and this movie came up before Psycho. Yep. For how successful this was, I don't understand why the budget cut for Black and White for Psycho, if he had done this well earlier on, it's a little confusing to me because I was like, well, he could have said, well, I just made you a shiz ton of money. Like, let me do what I want to do if he was that much of a dick. But obviously I don't know the whole story there. So,
well, I don't know if maybe Psycho's budget cut was like a forced budget cut or more of a like choice per se. And the budget cut was the budget was a good enough reason to cut the film. But I do know for like this one, they spent a shit ton of money in production because all the apartments were functional. And then the ground floor of the courtyard is actually in the basement of the studio. They tore out all the inner guts of the studio. So Jimmy Stewart's apartment's actually the floor, street level. And that's on the second story. So they put in a lot of work to set the way it was.
The production budget was just over $1 million, around $1 million, which for the 50s, like you said, Alec, was significant. I mean, that's a ton of money. Is that JJ's neighbor?
Yeah. Fast and Furious outside.
The last thing to your point, we were talking about that crazy set in the production value. One of the things that costed the most was the rain on set. He built like a legit, fully functioning drainage system. So that was like real rain. And the more I'm continuing to hear about Hitchcock, like he went to bat for what he wanted to go to bat for. And he probably did give 2 flying Fs. Like, you either make it happen or I'm making your life a living hell. So
yeah,
makes great movies. But the last thing I wanted to say for me, and now that we're done with trivia time, is I watched Psycho when we filmed that, and then I watched Rear Window the next day, and just the stark contrast of what Technicolor was. In some ways, the way Technicolor looked back then, it almost felt like too much color. Like, it was so bright, it was so in your face, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is amazing. And it was really I was glad this movie wasn't in color, because what this movie represented with the cinematic presence of the camera and what it was showing with these apartments, it was cool to see the different, like, basically little worlds that you were looking at. And so I really did appreciate that color was used for this movie, because I think of black and white, to me personally, it wouldn't have landed the same without seeing that rich environment that was presented.
It'd have been shit if it was in black and white.
Yeah.
Because you miss out on so much.
Yeah.
I agree. Like, you wouldn't be able to tell everything. Like, for instance, one of the most iconic scenes to me, when the dog scene happened, when there was the murder, everyone came out, the crying, everyone, and then the one, I don't remember the actual gentleman's name, just the salesman.
Thorwald.
Yeah. And the little, you could see, like a minute later, there was like, who didn't come out, everyone except, and they show the scene where it's all black, but you see a little like,
bit of red.
Yeah, his little pipe or whatever. And you're just like, yeah, because in black and white, yeah, you would have seen the little white, but it wouldn't have been, to me, it would not have felt nearly the same.
Yeah. Well,
or like the flowers, for instance, you couldn't even have that dialogue, because you'd have been like, well, yeah, great, but they just look slightly less gray.
Yeah. No, I'm 400% with you on this one. It sounds like Alec is too. Like, there are very few occasions when I'm like, black and white's okay. This would not be one of them. And I point to everything that you just said is absolutely on point. I also point to the jewels. Like, when he's putting his wife's, like, the big jewels and the yellow jewels and stuff into that suitcase, like, it makes a difference. Otherwise, you're just looking at shiny squares, right, that are black, because you can't tell. I mean, you know what they are, but to this one, like,
yeah, it's a really good point.
Yeah, and I talked about in Psycho, like, I'm very visually overstimulated. And I love that you brought it up, Matt. So you can go watch me play The Last of Us with these idiots watching
Shinies.
me. And I can't help myself. I see them and I have to, like, and I see them all the time. Like, I think it was a couple times, Alex, like, I didn't even see that. Like, because I'm very visually overstimulated easily. And so this film for me is like amazing. It's one of the reasons I love it so much, because I see new shit in these apartments and in the courtyard every time I watch it, because I'm like, oh God, it's in color. And if it was in black and white, I'd just be like, oh, I'm paying attention to the characters, which is what I do in Psycho. I'm listening to the dialogue 100%. I'm paying attention to the characters. This movie has far less dialogue in it than a Psycho or a lot of his films, because it's about that visual aspect of him watching and being in the apartment with Jeff and going, okay, what am I seeing? What are these triggers that make me feel like there was a murder? And getting joy out of watching the torso freaking dance and all these guys trying to figure out, and so I just love that aspect of this film, is that it's all about this character and getting in that. And I think that's something that Hitchcock does well in general, is put you in the mindset, or like makes you feel like you are the main characters. So, and he does it phenomenally in this one.
So one thing I wanted to add, what's interesting about Technicolor is I used my Chat GPT. It's a process of putting red, green, and blue, those primary colors, and using 3 separate film strips. So at times, especially earlier on when this was coming out during this time frame, things looked like overtly vibrant. And I think in this movie, it was probably intentional by Hitchcock to have such stark contrasts in colors for things to pop the way that they did, which I think is great. And I really like the look, but I was like, man, this almost looks like too much color in a sense, but it was really fun and interesting about it. And then the other thing I want to add in terms of Alec talking about the set, at times, because the set was so built out and they had to create the illusion of a hot summer day on set, at times it got up to like 120 degrees.
Oof.
For like you're just this continued adding of like, man, Hitchcock, like he just put people like in like a living hell in a sense.
Yeah. I'm amazed Jimmy Stewart did 2 films. I'd have fucking died.
JJ would have died on set.
I would have fucking shaved my entire face and still died.
To your point that you're about to make, though, JJ, with Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
Allegedly, Jimmy Stewart was the only motherfucker who would stand up to Hitchcock. And because he had an ego, too.
Oh, Jimmy Stewart, sure.
Jimmy Stewart with Jimmy Stewart, right?
Yeah.
But allegedly, he would get into shouting matches with Hitchcock. And Hitchcock would occasionally back down because, Jimmy Stewart wants what Jimmy Stewart wants.
Well, yeah, it's Jimmy Stewart. Well, and don't get me wrong. Like, you can read Jimmy Stewart was kind of a pain in the ass.
And it was
terrible.
The fourth, so it wasn't the second. This is the fourth collaboration between the two of them.
Yeah, yeah, because he's the main guy in Vertigo, which I'm with Brittany. She talked about it last week. It's that I think Vertigo and this might be my 2 favorite Hitchcock films. The Birds it's hard for me to watch because I just don't like birds, but like, which just is hilarious for our Patreon upcoming film. Like, anyway. The Patreon exclusive. If you want to make us watch a movie that sucks balls, like we're doing this month,
cinematic masterpiece,
go to our Patreon. You can check us out there and make us watch shit for the right price. But yeah, I because here's the other thing is apparently I just like assholes because I love Jimmy Stewart too. Like, there's very little that Jimmy Stewart's done that I'm like, I just love his characters. He's so charismatic and like interesting, and that voice, like. So I found it is interesting to know, but it's true. They're both dickheads, like difficult to work with.
One of the other things that it came up in the fun facts, but was iconic to me in this movie. You guys know, our listeners, I'm really, and I didn't even talk about this last week with Psycho. The film score is phenomenal. I mean, the use of strings and the suspense that was built, but this movie was so different in the sense that they used a term called diegetic music, where all that means is the actual music came from the set in the film. And so the piano was actually producing real music from that set to our listening ears. It wasn't scored over like most movies we hear about where things are happening and you're also hearing the music. And I thought that I didn't know that while I was watching, but now thinking about it, it just adds to the further realism. And we were experiencing the sound that Jimmy Stewart's character was experiencing himself. And it especially makes me think of that lady that the music literally saved her life, and now she ended up with the piano player. But I just thought that was really cool to call because another groundbreaking choice by Hitchcock to do something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely was
he changed cinema.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
He also
he changed it.
Had his movie banned in certain cities in Switzerland because they felt it was an invasion of privacy.
I think it was
because
also
the film the premise of the film. They probably didn't want their neighbors looking at.
Yeah,
I think
you get like some Sunday afternoon sleuth that wants to watch his neighbors to find a murderer.
Didn't Morocco also ban it because Grace Kelly was that princess?
I don't see that on here, but let's look it up.
It probably was. Yeah, that would make sense. Because they banned everything she did, didn't they?
They banned a lot because they didn't want their princess being, a movie star.
Yeah. Grace Kelly. We should talk about her too, because if there's
she had a life. Holy shit, did she have a life?
Yeah. And not to mention, there are very few people that can steal a scene from Jimmy Stewart, and she does it every fucking time.
All the time.
Every time she's on screen with them, she steals it. Not only because she's amazing to look at, but she acts the shit out of that movie. Like, it's fun to watch her and listen to her. So, I mean, I forget every time until I watch a Grace Kelly movie, because she also did a couple of Hitchcock films. She's amazing. Grace Kelly's outrageously good. So
the internet has not confirmed that. All it says is Switzerland. So I don't think so, but
props to Morocco.
She was didn't she get married when she was like 26 or something? She looks so much older in this film, but in all these older movies,
25.
she she looks older than she looks like a mature 30, like 35-year-old lady or something. But I know in that time frame the way they dress and the way they look, I think they just look older than they actually are just due to the way that they dressed and such. But I thought that was interesting because I was like, no way, she looks older than that, but she's also like a literal timeless beauty.
Man, she did a lot with Hitchcock. She did To Catch a Thief. She did Rear Window, Dial M for Murder. Damn.
She did 3 movies. Yeah. 3 collaborations.
Wow. I don't think I've ever seen Dial M for Murder. I'm going to have to look into that because I like Cary Grant too.
But so for me, I don't think, maybe I'd seen her something else, but she, like you guys were talking about, she was awesome. But I also really like the nurse that came in, gave him the massages. She added a lot of, I think what was nice, she had a lot of the humor that kind of broke up some of the pace of this movie, and it was needed because at times things felt a little slow or maybe a little overtly serious, and well placed. Where like if Alec were to direct a movie, she's like Alec's go-to. Where I feel like that's the type he'd be like, yeah, we need to throw in some of that, and it was perfect.
Yep, her name was Thelma Ritter. She's funny. I like this. I like the dynamic. This is another one too, and I guess Hitchcock has a couple of these, but like the characters are almost silly to a point. Like there, and it's very rare that he injects a lot of comedy into his films, but this one has, and I think some of it is because it's so slow when you're watching the different, as intriguing as it is to watch the different apartments and things like that. When it comes back to the main characters, there's a lot of comedy, like when he's eating the thing that you're talking about, and she's making the jokes about the chopping up the body, and he stops with the bacon and starts sipping his tea. They're like, it'll spill out. It's like, oh god, like the comedy in it is very different than what you typically see in a Hitchcock film. You might see a bit here and there, but this one's pretty riddled with it, and she's also probably a main piece of it too.
Yeah. It also keeps you off balance, right?
Sure.
Because you know something's coming. This is Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Like even in 1954, you knew something was coming.
Yeah.
But you didn't know when. And he kept you off balance with the jokes. And then you even have the newlywed couple, right? Where there's no dialogue, but the joke is there. And then, I mean, just here and there, there's these little tidbits of comedy that are like, oh, maybe this isn't going to be a normal Hitchcock movie. Maybe he's changing it up.
Yeah.
And then no, he's not. He's going straight Hitchcock.
Oh yeah.
Which is beautiful.
Yeah, great acting across the board in this one. The guy that plays Raymond Burr, Lars Thorwald, like very menacing for a character, for a character that doesn't talk very much. He's also he was Perry Mason. I don't know if you guys in the 90s, they had there was a Perry Mason was remade in the 90s and done, and he was Perry Mason, a bigger guy with a beard. That's how I always knew him. So when I found out, I was like, yeah, that's Perry Mason. I'm like, you shut the fuck up. That is not Perry Mason. But sure enough, it's Perry Mason. But I liked him because he's very, like when he comes into the apartment, or that moment that you're talking about, Mattson, where all you see is the little red dot of his cigar, and then like the lightning or like a light flash, and you just get the silhouette. Like he's just so menacing. He's like big and like, yeah, I liked it. So I just love this movie.
I was going to say in our last podcast, I started to talk about this, but this is the movie that influenced Disturbia, the 2007 Shia LaBeouf movie. And I just thought it was cool that they really took like the whole premise because of this movie and directly influenced that. And like we always talk about past cinema influencing modern cinema. And we all know the constant battles we have in this podcast of how we all really feel about that. But I just thought it was cool to call out.
Yeah. Yeah, Hitchcock's got quite a few that people have taken his storylines in some way, shape, or form. So I like it. All right, should we rate it?
Let's do it.
All right, Alec, it's another choice of yours, buddy. You go first.
Man, are we starting 2024 off right or what?
I'm telling you.
Hello, Hitchcock. Yeah, so like I said earlier, this was the very first Hitchcock movie I've seen. And like you guys both talking about, the Lars Thorwald's scenes are some of the best ever. The phone rings, there's nobody there, and then you get the footsteps going up the stairs, and the light outside the door gets, blocked by his bulk. I mean, it's just so good. And Hitchcock is the king of timing, in my opinion. I said it last week, I'll say it again. Timing and pacing. He is able to take you, manipulate you, twist all your emotions around, and still surprise you at the end of it. So this is going to be another 5 from me. Perfect movie. Let's do some more, guys. This was awesome.
Yeah, I'm always down for some Hitchcock. I'm also going to give this a 5. I think if I give, I gave Psycho a 5, and this movie to me is better than Psycho. I think it's more entertaining, it's more fun, it's more interesting. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. It's probably my favorite top 2 at bare minimum Hitchcock film. Could watch it anytime. Just love Jimmy Stewart, love Grace Kelly. I just love this movie. So 5 for me. Definitely watch it again. Mattson, buddy.
All right, same question as last time. Predictions on my rating.
Dude, as high as you gave Psycho, I'm thinking you're going to give it the first pre-1970s 5.
No, I like
what?
Psycho. I like Psycho more than I like this movie. Remember, Psycho would have been a 5 if it was in color. This movie's a 4 for me. So I mean, Psycho is Psycho is amazing. I will say this. I'm going to watch Psycho again. It's in my again watchable. Psycho's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Rear Window for me, the pace was a little slow for me. It just giving me my gut reaction. It felt a little slow, and the ending, while it was good, I felt like I knew it was coming, and I wanted it to come faster. And I know that Alex is going to be breathing in his grave hearing that, but yeah, just
Burgess Motel. Stop there, Mattson.
But for me, the difference, and to go back to last week with Psycho, the way it ended, I knew he was gonna be the mom, but what I didn't expect is the way they had that psychiatrist talk about it. It was just really cool to me. I was like, they didn't have to have that exposition, but it was intriguing. And then they ended with his face and the grandma superimposed over it. I was killer. I was blown away. For this one, for whatever reason, when Lars came in, dude, it was menacing. I knew he was like, what do you want from me? That whole conversation. And then, I don't know, maybe it's just Jimmy Stewart just being in a wheelchair and couldn't battle back as much, or the way that they filmed it. And he kind of looked like he was a whiny little boy getting strangled. Whatever it was, just didn't have the aura of the ending that I was hoping for. It's still a solid movie. I think I may even watch this one again. It was just a little slower. If they had maybe chopped out 10 or 15 minutes of some of the camera pans, but I know that was revolutionary. That's what this movie was. But if it was an hour and 50-minute movie, if it was an hour 35 and some of that was gone, I probably awesome. So there you go.
Fair enough. Hey, look, we got 4s from Mattson on 2 very old movies. I'll take what I can get, dude. I'm proud of you, man. This is connection on a level we haven't had for a
They're
while.
Good. They're good movies. Psycho is generally in it. It's an amazing movie.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think
it's to the point where I'm gonna go. We're probably watching Vertigo this week, which to our listeners should be a shocking thing. So wow.
Yes, I'm excited for you. You'll have to let me know. Unless you hate
Hitchcock would have been what would get him to watch old movies done a month ago.
Yeah.
But there is a line to my maturity, as I've texted my co-host, that the silent film era don't really have a desire to go there. And I don't even think our listeners really want us to go there. So we'll probably not.
We're going back.
We've done it a couple times. I'm intrigued to hear what you think of Vertigo. If you hate it, don't tell me. I'll just pretend that you loved it. But I think you'll like it. It's good. That's this. I'm almost speechless. I love this. But I'll find my words just in time to tell you guys again about Manscaped. So go and get 20% off and free shipping with the code THEVERDICT, all one word, at manscaped.com, because nothing says Happy New Year like a deal that leaves your balls and your budget feeling refreshed. Embrace the new you, and definitely embrace a new trimmer courtesy of Manscaped. Look, we got the 5.0s. All of us have had them. I liked it so much. I went and got the beard trimmer. Maybe next episode I'll have a little less on the face. It's getting a little annoying because I end up eating half of my mustache when I eat. So that's how I know it's time. But wintertime it usually stays long. Anyway, we'll see. But yeah, there it is. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Wait.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Cinemagical.
Whoa!